This is serious. So obviously
Yeah,
we all know what happened in at Bondi Beach. Absolutely horrendous terrorist attack by ISIS
Yeah.
sympathizing crazy wacko nutcases. And there's a couple of interesting things even about that case. The hero is this Syrian guy, right? The hero is the
Yeah.
Syrian guy that wrestled the weapon off the one of the jihadis. But what the mainstream media is failing to tell everybody is that before the Syrian guy wrestled the weapon off the jihadi, two Jewish pensioners had done exactly the same thing and paid for it with their lives, literally, I don't know how long before. But nobody mentions them. Nobody mentions this Jewish immigrant from Ukraine that had
Yeah.
no military experience, grabbed the weapon off this crazy guy, and was shot dead for his trouble. But that's not what I'm talking about tonight. What the Australian government has done now? This guy Albanese, the Australian Prime
yeah,
Minister, he's kind of like if you take Keir Starmer, put him in a time machine, make him even more stupid and even more imbecilic than the real Keir
yeah.
Starmer is,
That's
and
possible.
send
Yeah,
him to Australia. That's what Albanese is, or whatever they call him, right? And what he's decided to do in his wisdom is pass hate speech laws. Surprise, surprise. You know,
There we
what?
go.
and the reason this is relevant to us, right? Because guess which country was the first country to ban 16-year-olds from going on the interweb? Okay,
What was it?
it was
Australia?
it was Australia. It was Australia.
Wow, wow. And
Australia,
they brought it up to you in the UK as well, haven't they?
yeah, Australia, and now they're rolling out here. Now, this is why I'm so worried about this, right? Because we know that there will be another horrendous terrorist atrocity in the UK. There's that
Yeah.
many of these crazy lunatics in the country. One of them will not be able to help himself and will do something either brutal
Mm.
to a young white girl or do something brutal to some of our Jewish neighbours. We know that that's going to happen, right? We don't want it to
Yeah.
happen, but we know that that's going to happen. And of course, there'll be a response, and there'll be all the usual pandemonium that happens around that. Now, this is what Albanese's decided to do. Okay, so if you're found to be directing the activities of a hate group. Now, this is where it gets really. I mean, people misuse the term Orwellian, but this is genuinely, completely Orwellian off the chart, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So they will have a minister in the government who's in charge of deciding what groups are hate groups and what groups aren't hate groups. Now, you imagine if Unite the Kingdom was in Australia. Well, I'm pretty sure if there
Yeah.
was an Islamist terrorist attack, straight away they'd ban an Islamist group, and then they come in and ban the Unite the Kingdom demonstrations.
Yeah.
If we were in Australia, thank goodness we're not. Now, if you're found to have been directing the activities of one of these hate groups, right? If you've been doing it recklessly, I don't know how you can recklessly direct something, but if you've been doing it recklessly, there's a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison.
What? 10
That's
years?
ridiculous.
10 years in prison. Gets better. If you were doing it deliberately, 15 years in prison.
What on
Whoa, my
earth?
gosh.
Right?
That's
Okay. Then it gets even better. If you've been recruiting to one of these hate groups, now you've got to understand, they would literally class Unite the Kingdom as a hate group,
yeah,
without a
yeah.
shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. If you've been recruiting to one of these hate groups, if you do it recklessly, 10 years in prison, intentionally or deliberately, 15 years in prison. Now, now this is where it gets even more sinister. Recruiting for one of these hate groups could be Richie getting on the phone to Richard and saying, "Hey, Richard, what about this meeting at the, in London on the 16th of May? Can we count you in for that?" And I go, "Yeah, that's a great idea, Richie. I'll come to that. You've now just recruited me."
Wow.
So under this legislation in Australia, and again, this is not UK legislation, but follow the thinking on this. Under this legislation in Australia, if we were organising those sort of events and demonstrations, we'd be looking at 10 years and 15 years in prison, respectively. Okay.
Yeah.
If you train anyone for one of these hate groups, say, for instance, you told them how to do media, taught them how to do social media, taught them how to do a YouTube video, same
Wow.
as 10 years, 15 years,
What?
right? Yeah. And so these are the maximum sentences. Then they've got mandatory sentencing. Okay. So public display of hate symbols, right? So now,
Well, yeah, who decides what these hate symbols are, though?
This is the thing. It is totally
Wow.
subjective. There's no the legislation has been slammed through Parliament in something like 3 days in Australia, right?
Wow,
It is
wow.
completely off the chart Orwellian, and I can guarantee you, if Keir Starmer gets a sniff of this, he'll be saying fax because obviously Keir Starmer's a bit of a retard. He'll be saying, Albanese, fax me the details. I don't think they probably know how to use email in the government yet. Fax me the details of this legislation. We want it on our statute book. Next time there's a terror attack, I'm convinced that our government will try and pull this on us. So if you have a public display of hate symbols, now that could be, I mean, don't get me wrong, I despise Islamists and I despise Nazis, right? So that could be having a swastika on your bedroom wall, right? If anyone's got a swastika on his bedroom wall, he's just a sad little cretin, right? If anyone's got the Shahada on the bedroom wall, well, you're probably a sad little Islamist, okay?
Yeah.
But if those symbols are visible to the outside world, so if a police car drives past your house and you've got a big swastika and a picture of Adolf Hitler on your wall, they can kick your door in. There's a mandatory sentence immediately. This is not a maximum or a minimum. A mandatory sentence when you go to court of 12 months in prison for having a hate symbol.
So this has been legislated for in Australia. When is this today, Richard?
It's done. It's a done deal. As far as I know, it's certainly cleared. I don't know whether they have two houses in Australia. I don't know whether they have the equivalent of House of Lords. I don't know much about their system, but it's certainly passed. The whatever their main legislator is, it has been passed in their main legislature. So this is on the statute books now in Australia.
Wow.
And they rushed it through. Oh, they took, and also they took a certain amount of, they're taking a certain amount of people's firearms off them as well. Surprise, surprise. Because when they pass Orwellian legislation, they've got to make sure that nobody can fight back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
this is ridiculous.
Well, here the online safety bill that they put into power. I mean, that's having an effect already, isn't it? Right, trying to silence people and shut people down. But they're going to go further. This government is so hooked on shutting down voices, dissenting voices that speak truth to their power. They don't like us. No. And, they're going to come for us. I mean, look, we know this. Mainstream media is failing. The BBC now are going to YouTube. Have you seen that latest as well? They're like, young people aren't watching us anymore, so we're going to go to YouTube because young people don't, because they know that this bullshit narrative they're being fed by mainstream media. And what's happening in Australia is quite frightening. And first I've heard of it, because that is a very slippery slope to a dictatorship, to tyranny, where a government can tell you what you can and cannot say, because if you say such and such, you will be arrested and given a mandatory sentence of a minimum of 10 flipping years. What is happening in Australia?
That was the maximum sentences on those, the directing activities, so on and so forth. The mandatory was the symbols. But I mean, and I'm only dipping my toe in the water. There's a lot more in that bill than that. Pretty much what it would mean is anybody on the right of politics that they want to target, they could target. They can target. Obviously, they're targeting the anti-Semites and they're targeting the Islamists. And look, I'm totally against that. I am one of the biggest supporters of Israel you will ever meet. Right, always have been. Right, and I'm unashamedly Zionist. Just for all the dribbly Nazis that are watching this show, well, you've got a Zionist, you can come and attack here.
The comments are going to go mad, but that's all right.
I know. I am a Zionist. I'm Spartacus. Okay, but but without the sandals. But this is really happening. And look, that's what we're up against, guys. And that's the sort of sad facts of what's happening in Australia. But the reason it's so important, because what happens is the Anglosphere countries copy each other. So Canada passed a euthanasia bill, right? The next thing, you've got the UK passing a euthanasia bill. Incidentally, Lord Faulkner, right? What was he? He was I think he was the chief prosecutor or whatever he was. He was a big wig in Blair's government. Lord Faulkner in the House of Commons, in the House of Lords, put a question down asking and really insisting that women who were 9 months pregnant were allowed to euthanize themselves.